Hey everyone, welcome to Book of Katherine, and we are doing something very different today. We are doing a Q&A with Ben Shapiro, but not really, not really. I am going to do Ben Shapiro's Q&A. Very, very different. So, anyway, I'm going to do a little bit of an intro as I usually do, but basically, for those of you who are new here, I am going to be taking an explosive Q&A by Ben Shapiro that he did at one of his events, and I'm going to be answering questions for him. Now, if you are new to my channel, then you know that I'm not a conservative, I'm an independent, but in today's culture, I'm very aware, like majority of my friends are liberals, just that's the way it is in my community. I'm an insider in a lot of really big industries, and those industries happen to be majority liberal, but they're not leftist. And there's a big difference between liberal and leftist. And it was actually Ben Shapiro who taught me that. He was like, there's a big difference between liberal and leftists. And he's right about that. Liberals are people who want like free speech and free thought and things like that. And what I've learned is today's culture, like basically if you have free thought or free thinking, like you'll get kicked out. Like if you stand for free speech, you'll actually get kicked out of leftist group on campuses. Like there are actually videos, if you look them up online, there are kids who are being kicked out all over the country if they actually stand up for free speech. They see it as a form of hate speech to stand up for free speech. So anyway, but Ben Shapiro, if you've noticed or peeked over to the other side, which I've only been doing recently, to try to broaden my mind, and I'm glad that I did, because I found out that they're not really talking about conservative things over there. They are actually just talking about everyday issues, because what's happened is with the leftist media, basically, they're not talking about any issues, are they? They're just talking like this script. They have an agenda, and they just keep pummeling this script and this one thing into us. They're not feeding us facts. They're not feeding us news stories. They're not giving us like the news of the day, the things that we need to hear about that's going in our towns. We're hearing the same script over and over and over again. And there's reasons for that. I go into that on my Twitter feed. But basically what you end up finding is on all the other sites that the news media calls conservative, but really is a whole range, like liberal, libertarian to conservative to ultra conservative. They're all really at this point in time not talking about conservative values at all. The majority of them are just talking about the actual news of today, and they're just having discussions with like the 90% of other political views out there. And so, and they're willing to talk to one another. As you'll see, I'll link the Q&A down below, but like he has people who disagree with him come to the front of the line. They are allowed to cut in front of the line. He wants people who disagree with him first. He always thanks them for coming. And you'll notice that the audience, when they actually speak, they all clap for them. They always clap for whoever came and spoke or whatever. They always clap for the person. They love good questions. They like good thoughts. And like that is kind of like my group. Like we really like just growing and talking to one another. We like sitting at a table, and we like having diverse ideas. Like that's what makes a dinner table really, really interesting. Like back in the day, and that's actually what, happens at a lot of insider tables is you think about the table and you're like, do you have a diverse group of ideas at the table so that you have good conversation? And like that's happening less and less out of fear at insider tables. But then it's not really insider tables. Now the insider tables are like going more underground. And so what's happening is like the people with the real power are like being like, they're becoming more and more elite. It's harder and harder to become a real insider. You have to be seen as trustworthy. Because, they want someone who's going to be open to different opinions and be able to listen. And so that's what my channel is about, is just like, let's find out what facts are really out there and be able to discuss it and have differing opinions. And that's really what we just value here, is like the other 90%, like just the 90% of political views. Because the reality is what the agenda wants you to believe is that, there's one way or the other, like the leftist way or the other way. And it's not. There's just one way and then there's like actually all these other different political views. And most of us 40 or 60% of Americans fall in the middle. They don't have an actual political party. They don't claim a political party. They're all over the place. They have a bunch of views that stick in both parties. And so they don't claim a political party. But you'll never hear that. Even the conservative media doesn't admit that. They don't admit that 60% of Americans are like in the middle. You know what I mean? So, I kind of feel like in some ways my channel is for the rest of us, like in the middle, moderates, who are just like, where did our place go in the world? That's what the news media used to be for us. So anyway, so back to what we're going to do today. And why I'm dressed up. I'm dressed up because if you don't know who I am chronically ill. I don't get to film very often. I haven't filmed in forever and ever and ever and ever. I've been really sick. It's been really, really bad. So I was like, I got out today and I was just like, what earrings match with this makeup? And I was like, ooh, these are really pretty. And then I was like, what dress top matches? And this matched. And then if you've been watching my Twitter feed, I've been finding out like what they've been making us, like what Hill and Knowlton has been making us wear on like these up tonight, like basically like 2 other religions. They've been making us conform to those standards. So I was like, oh, I can't get the camera to like get cut off to up here. And then I was like, no, I am going to rebel and not be modest. Like I am doing that on purpose today, you guys. I am making a choice to go against Hill and Knowlton, not be modest and be like Deborah Paget that I've been posting on my Twitter feed. And I'm going to go ahead. Like this goes way lower cut than this, but I am going to go ahead and I'm going to show my freaking skin. Like I'm going to do it because I'm going to do it because they don't want me to. And while I have the freedom, while I am still allowed to, I'm going to. I cannot believe that pictures 50 years ago are more risque than what we have on the cover of Vogue for the last 20 years. I can't believe that. So anyway, so let's go on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the, and for those of you, I keep forgetting to say this, if the door opens and closes in the back here, like if it keeps opening and closing in the back, that's my cats. They love to come in and out, and it looks like a silent ghost. I know that freaks people out, and I never tell you about that, but that's actually my cats coming in and out. They like to think they're human, and so they never like to enter a room without, like, opening it. They're weird. You can see a playlist. I have playlists on my channel of all the cats. They are not normal cats. Everyone says that, but when you see them, you'll see what I mean. They're not normal cats. But I never had cats before, but my doctor said to get a companion animal because I went from being this outgoing person traveling 2,200 miles a week to all of a sudden locked up in a house in a jail cell, basically, for 8 years. And they were like, you really, really need to get a companion animal, while my husband's gone all day. And they were right. And so, yeah, they really do. They make you forget. Instead of him coming home every day and the conversation being about the pain and how bad the pain was and how awful a day was, instead the conversation is about the cats. That's a big difference. Like, that's a big difference. It's something to be grateful about. You see my post on gratitude. Now, 7 minutes in, we'll get in. Hopefully I'll link it down below. And I don't know if I'll cut in the questions here. If I can edit, I probably can't. I'll try and just quote to you the questions. So the first question was from a guy from New England.
Right over Neil Smith and a lot of my
I don't know if you can hear this.
Pretty liberal atmosphere. They're kind of talking about like Germany being better in economic growth, being better with controlling inflation, things like that, and how we should emulate them, do something like the EU. I was just wondering what your thoughts on that are.
I mean, the EU is failing, so that's economically illiterate.
All right, so, why am I doing the Q&A? Why am I doing that? I probably should say that right out the gate. The questions have changed. Like, the questions have changed. People are asking different questions. I noticed that the questions have changed, and I can tell people want certain kind of information. And let's just say, like, they're getting philosophical answers, and that's all good. And I've noticed, like, today, like, I'm really impressed with Shapiro. He's been upping his game, but people don't want philosophical answers anymore. Like, they want the frickin' truth. Like, they are very, very aware that there is a game being played at higher levels, and they frickin' want in the game. Like, they can tell. They can tell that there are insiders of insiders of insiders, and they're like, let us inside. Like, we want to understand. We can tell the internet is shutting us out of things. We can tell things are being censored, like stoning. Gee, all the stoning pages are just removed. And gee, all the voting fraud stuff is just removed. Even the photographer who posted the picture of the stoning, his website's gone. Like, they're starting to see that the internet isn't actually free, that someone controls the internet, that it was created for a reason. Let's not even get into Starbucks. Do you know what I'm saying? And so they want much more concrete answers. I get the feeling that they just want to know, like, names, dates, and places. Like, they want some like, I don't know. I don't know. I'll just say answers that he's kind of given more like recently. So anyway, so I'll give you my answers and we'll see where it goes. 10 minutes in. Oh, hold on. Nope, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that because if I do that. All right, so let's do it. I apologize. I'm sick. I'm not like other people. All right, I'm out of my rhythm. All right. EU, Germany. His friends at a liberal college are like, oh, we should be like the EU. Oh, we should be like Germany. And he's like, what is your response to that? Okay, what is my response to that? If I were on that podium and they're like, oh, my friends are saying, I'd say, have you been there? Have you been there? Have you been there? Go on Twitter. Ask them to go on Twitter and see what Germany's tweets are saying. See what it's going like in Hungary. See what it's going like in Sweden. Oh, that's right, you can't find it. Why can't you find it? Why can't you find what's going on in Greece? Why won't Twitter let you see what people are tweeting in those countries? Why won't they let you go outside of that? Like, why not? Until you go to those countries, you have no idea what you're talking about. Until you go to those countries, you only know what's being fed to you. Do you know there was a ton of stuff on Brexit that was out there before the Brexit vote, and then boom, they didn't think Brexit would happen. Brexit happened, and all that stuff was freaking wiped. And it was amazing stuff. It was absolutely amazing stuff. None of this stuff about, oh, like immigrants and all this other. You know what it was saying? It was talking about how the EU, how the EU is basically the United States of Europe. It is. Like, it's the United States. They, like, laid it out politically and how it just destroys small businesses. Europe each country used to have an identity and used to have little bitty businesses and used to go along cobblestones, and every single little business had their own identity, and you could go country to country and you knew you were in a different place. Just like when you are in the United States, you can go country to country, you know you're in a different place. But, oh, the EU happened, and every day they make 80 laws. 80 laws. You guys complain so much. I have seen that Vladimir guy's channel, and I have seen what all of these protesters that Soros organizes and pays people $50 an hour to go to, and I see what they say, and I see what they're actually being taught. They're being taught that you can't change the laws in America. That's the EU, baby. In the EU, you can't change the laws. In the EU, you can't change the laws because the laws are out of your hands in unelected officials' hands. In America, you can change the laws. In America, you can run for office, you can get on a city council, you can strip out any laws. You can remove laws. That's how we had a million regulations that were like this high, and it took people like to get a business license, it took them 2 years, and now it takes 2 weeks because we have someone new in office and they changed the law. And you're not being taught that. That's just misinformation that they're being fed by a very, very, very one-note, strong propaganda machine that sounds and is exactly following the teachings of Lenin. If you study Lenin in World War I and the First Council of Communists, the whole thing, and learn what they taught, it's like bam, 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 bam. Do you know what they taught? They taught to make your enemy be hated beyond words. Instill hatred in the enemy. Instill loathing, hatred, and tyranny towards the other enemy. Make them hate them, loathe them, and want to kill them in the other enemy. And then promise your people the heavens. They promised the people bread for everyone, land for everyone. And then what did they do? They killed 10 million people and starved them all to death. I mean, they're literally using it. Like, they're using Lenin's little thing. I mean, heck, Soros announces all of his things. Where was the CIA for Democrats? Where was that announced? On the World Socialist website. So that's my answer to the EU question. Oops, I hope I didn't close that. All right, I'm a little bit more lively. Here we go. I'm going to click through his. You can watch it down below. I'll link it. Oh my gosh, I always thought he was so energetic, and I was like, ooh, I think I might be a little bit more energetic. He's very calm. He's very calm. Maybe I should be more calm. Nah, you're here for me.
My name's Martin.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'm not really a fan, but I
Well,
like
thank you for
hearing
showing
you talk.
up. You know what? Thank you for showing up specifically because you're not a fan.
Right, I like
See?
hearing you talk. So one of my questions is, you talk about this culture between black and black violence. What is your solution then to that?
Don't commit crimes. I mean,
I feel like there's a bigger issue.
I mean,
He said, what is your solution to black on black crimes? Well, I think a big, huge, that's really, he's like, don't commit crimes. He's right. The guy was right. It's so much more than that. It's education and getting the facts. I mean, I say build websites that have real facts. Like, really build websites, get your real history out there. For example, the Million Man March. Like, I talked to some of my insider friends, and it was so fascinating because the insider friends who were black that were younger thought that the Malcolm X was like way bigger than the people who were older. They knew. The people who were there knew how big Malcolm X was. They're like, Malcolm X was this big. The people who were younger thought Malcolm X was like this big. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? But that's because of what happened. If you go on YouTube and you look up the Million Man March, you can't find Martin Luther King. You cannot find the original Million Man March. You could only find the 1995 one, where no women were allowed. Only Maya Angelou, and she had to have her head covered. And what did they teach? That the true evil was white supremacy of the Western world. And did the news media cover that? No. They announced from east to west coast that Maya Angelou spoke for Bill Clinton. They didn't say anything about another Million Man March. They didn't say anything about Islam being preached there. They didn't say anything about having her head covered. And they didn't say a dang thing about all million men being men and no women being allowed. Because that was like 180 from what Martin Luther King did. Like a 180. And it was a sure herald of what was going to change. What was coming. It was a sure as heck change. Like, it was a united thing. Anyway, so yeah, build websites that you can start disseminating information from off of YouTube. Like, you need to put your own videos on there of what actually happened so that kids can actually see what the Million Man March was. Because I know that those young people were shocked to see that the Million Man March was black people and white people marching together, happy, united, not separated. And they were like, God, everything we're fighting for already happened like that long ago. Like, they fought and they didn't even know the Civil Rights Act, you guys. Like, you need to build websites and then start flyering and start door-to-door flyering, going to churches. Because the problem is that Soros is funding churches. You need to be aware of that. And then start making music that isn't made by white men. Because I know who makes the black music. And 8-8, it's not. It's not. And they're doing what? It's education is power. Like, knowledge is power. Why do you think the media doesn't anyway, we'll get on to the next thing. So I think it's education, like just showing them actual history, like giving it, for example, like handing out the history about like, for example, like, let's look at all the neighborhoods. They've been run by the DNC. They've been run by the DNC, and they are still poor, and they are still falling apart, and they've been owned by the DNC. They've been owned by a criminal organization, basically, that wants to keep them down so they can use their vote and say, you're poor and you're victims, and you're still... No, they don't want them to be healthy. They don't want a police presence there so that businesses get protected. They want the businesses to get smashed so that they fail, so that everyone stays poor. They want crime to stay high, so they can always say that you're poor and you need help. No, like, they don't know that the Democratic Party founded the KKK. They don't know the Democratic Party voted and filibustered against the Civil Rights Act that gave them equal rights to white men. Like, that's the whole thing. And like, all of that needs to be out there. Like, you need to go ahead and give all that, or give them the Prager University, like all of that sort of thing. Like, they want to know it. It's not like black people are like, oh, don't give me information. They want the information, you guys. Like, they want the information. Like, when you see like so many videos at rallies and you see like these two arguments or whatever, Like, remember who they stock the rallies with. Like, I'll put a link below. Like, remember who Soros is hiring for those rallies. Remember what they found out in that thing and with their postings and stuff like that. Like, that is not representative. I taught inner city. None of my friends chose to teach inner city. I chose to teach inner city. My mother marched on the Million Man March. I was raised, like, I know now it's supposedly controversial, but not because black people decided it was controversial, because George Soros said it so that we could be divided. And I'm not going to live by his rules or his propaganda. The globalists want us divided so that America will fall. I'm sorry, but my mother and her friends, they fought to make sure that we were all equals. And I'm sorry, but I went into the inner city and I loved teaching there. I loved teaching there. And those kids were better than any of the white schools. You know why? Because the white schools were spoiled and they're brats and everything like that. And the kids were just, they didn't have money. And they were just like, if you gave them respect, I had a rule, give them as much respect. I'll give you as much respect as you give me. And there were thugs. But they were the minority. They just want education. And you know what? When I gave them opportunities, I brought in the grants. I brought in all the grants that I learned about in the white schools. I brought in all the grants and all the things that we were offered in the white schools that the DNC didn't offer in the black schools. I brought them in the white schools and I disseminated them and all the kids took them. They took all the AP tests. They took all the education. They will take it and they will use it. Those movies are big fat lies about kids being like, and I'll fight it. They're not. They are not like that at all. That's programming and I hate it. All right, next one.
Really is that these communities require more police, not less. There's a woman named Jane Levy who writes for the LA Times, particularly in black communities, were due to race about named Jane Levy who writes for the LA Times. She's actually on the left. And she wrote an entire book about how a lot of the disparities in crime, particularly in black communities, were due to racism, but not in the way that people based off racism in place to actually save an enormous police around. This is true. Single motherhood represent internally. Obviously, once you were actually able to go in, rob, gentrification, or a home, it seems to me, and I mean, there's also and
in that sense,
educational system not to kill it. Okay, thanks so much.
Good evening, Mr. Shapiro. It's a pleasure. Big fan. My question has to do a little bit with Jordan Peterson. The recent hysteria with Canada's Bill C-16.
Yes.
With the compelled speech law, right? I just want to know, do you think that there's anything to worry about in America as far as compelled speech goes, government overreach?
Yes. And so I think that anti-discrimination.
Yeah. Because it's already happening. People are already going to jail. When you don't have a press corps, we don't have a press corps, nothing's being recorded. Like things like their rape rates are going up, it's not being reported. You have to assume that you know nothing about what's going on in your community. Your newspapers are not telling you. Your news channels are not telling you. Like, they are not telling you at all what's going on in your community. They're not telling you about your crime. They're not telling you about any audacity. Like, they're going to make you think that they are because they get all hyped up and everything like that. But they don't. They only tell you things that seem to fit their agenda. But like even the stuff, like even the things that they throw at you are usually like they're fabricated at this point. Like, they fabricate things. Like Russia, how long did we spend on Russia? And we found out that was a completely fabricated story. Not to mention, like, don't even get me started on 9/11. Right up here. Don't even get me started. Like, when a press corps, a global media network, can do what they did with 9/11 and hide an entire New York City from telling the rest of the world that 7 buildings were destroyed, torn to the ground instead of 2. Does that tell you what a media blackout they have on all social media networks and on all media? You can even learn it when the Olympics happened. Like, when the Olympics happened How easy is it for you to get any kind of Olympic clips that NBC doesn't own? That's when I really learned how locked down the internet is and how locked down the news media is. Nothing gets in and out that they don't choose for you to see. Like, it is virtually impossible. Even the darknet, guys. Sorry, I know too much. But even the darknet. I mean, we love to think that the darknet is... No. Even Bitcoin. IMF just invested in Bitcoin. Like, what does that tell you? I'm like, yep, there you go. Guess who created Bitcoin? I think it's hysterical that people actually think that they can hide away in Bitcoin. I'm like, you come in through a bank and you go out through a bank. You can't hide crap on Bitcoin, you guys. Like, if you think you're hiding on Bitcoin, you're not, because it has to, yeah. Anyway, so, oh gosh, I got off topic. What were we talking about?
Nation laws are going to be used as an excuse to crack up.
Yeah, they already are. So you don't have a media. We don't have a media. Okay, so the way you have to find things out is when you hear the public come to speak at things like this, right? And they ask questions. And we have already heard students come to Shapiro's events and say, I posted something on Facebook. I posted a joke on April Fool's. I got illegally evicted from my apartment. I got thrown and arrested in jail for a joke on social media on his own page. He got attacked and harassed and he got suspended from school. It's already happening. It's already happening. Not to mention the $250,000 fine in New York if you don't use preferred pronouns. Like, it is already happening. And the audacity of the left to be like, tolerance, tolerance, tolerance. When Chick-fil-A came into New York, they were like, we're being invaded. And I was like, you are not tolerant of different views. You are only tolerant of these views. Like, that is it. You sat there and listened to that Jordan Peterson thing that I talked about. I'll try and link it right here. The Jordan Peterson, where they were like, think about kindness. Think about kindness and tolerance and love in your heart. And I was like, unless it comes to Chick-fil-A. Do you see that? Like, unless it comes to someone that disagrees with you. It's a very, very, very narrow script. Very narrow script. It is not for everyone. It is not, liberty for all. The Statue of Liberty, the left doesn't stand for the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty says liberty for all. For all. For Chick-fil-A and transgender. And everyone should have the right to say what they think and say what they feel. The only time, and it's so funny when you see people say things like, Facebook Zuckerberg got up there and said, and you need to give us laws that tell us what we can actually abide by. And I was like, not one senator said back, we have them. It's the Constitution. Whack. Like, I was just like, we already have one. We have a law. It's actually in the Constitution. We don't need to make another law. We have one. It's the First Amendment. And they claim the First Amendment when it fits their narrow little script, but the moment it goes out, the other 90% of political views, and they kick you out. If you happen to agree with free speech, you're out. Like, if you happen to think everyone should have the right to speak on the internet, you're out. If you're Catholic, you're out. Facebook is censoring Catholic pages. They block Catholic pages from posting. Dang, like, the Catholic Church has done some nasty stuff, but they've also done good things, but I don't care. Freedom of religion, and they're blocking Catholic posts. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not liberty for all in the leftist world. So yeah, we're not allowed to. It's already happening. All right, next one. Oh, so what do? You need to go to your city council and find out what's happening. You actually need to go, and you need to go get to the podium, and you need to ask them and be like, what do you have on free speech? And you need to you have to actually go to your police station. You need to actually get involved and find out what's going on. You need to start asking your friends. If you know, like I started asking my nurses, I started saying, do you know anyone? And I found out, I found out that people in my little town have been fired for making jokes about Islam. I have no idea what they said. If they were like, oh my God, did they make you wear a burqa to class? They got fired for that. I was like, what? They make jokes about Jesus all the time. Like they put Jesus in a tub of crap. But like Islam is the one thing you're not allowed to touch, which tells you a lot about the money. Islam has a lot. It's oil, you guys. It's oil. It's not Islam. It's oil. Oil owns Twitter. Like, oh my gosh, wearing it while I can. So go invest in your town. You can change the laws. You can change the laws. They have been pushing to get into city councils and get judges. You can too. Two can play at that game. Go out there. 90% of political views, they are the narrow view. They are not the majority. There's all of you can go out there and run and replace. And every little replacement, every little voice that answers back makes a difference. Go find out in your town what's happening. Find out who's being thrown in jail. Because that's the thing, is that anger wins. And boy, they're really good at angry. Because in those cultures, they know that raising your voice, it's in the culture. Raising your voice usually wins. Americans can't handle anger. Like, it's in our, we're always nice and everything. And you know where that came from? The Judeo-Christian background. We're always like, in our culture, being honest. That's where that comes from. The Judeo-Christian thing, being honest to each other. But why are you assuming all cultures are like that? In other cultures, lying to get your way is known as a good thing. Like, there's actually religions that teach that. Lying in order to further this sort of thing, that's actually in religion. Same with Scientology. Lying to get this is seen as honorable. And also, like, I remember, I'll never forget it, when my therapist, well, she became my friend, but my therapist was going to Turkey, and she actually was getting cultural training on what to happen when you go to Turkey, back when it was safe to travel there. And she was getting training, and she says they really invaded, like the salespeople really invade your space there, the way they do sales. It's not here, like in America, they sit back and you walk up to the shop and you go shopping and you browse the store. And then when you want something, you go to the store. Not in Turkey. In Turkey, when you walk along the street, they will send little kids up to you, selling their wares, and they will lay the wares along your arms. Like, they invade your personal space and they lay things along your arms. But she's like, it's just a cultural thing. It's just a cultural difference. And the cultural trainer was like, and if you don't want it, you go and you bend down and you lay the goods on the street. And that tells them you don't want it, and then you walk along. And that taught me so much. But we don't know that here, because they teach us multiculturalism, that all cultures are like ours. Sorry, not all cultures are based in Judeo-Christian values, where honesty is the thing. Why do we think that everyone is based in a culture of honesty? Where did that come from? And that we know where that came from. All right. So just one moment. My husband is home. Yay. And I'm worn out. Just a moment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shapiro, for being here. It's truly amazing that you were able to come. My name is Justin, and I have one question for myself and one for my brother. He asked...
See, he's saying it was truly amazing that you were able to come, because so few colleges let anyone with differing viewpoints come. Do you hear, like, how, like, these people are? Are they terrible terrorists? No. I'm much more controversial than anything Ben's saying. Give me a break. And they're not allowed on college campuses, and the public isn't able to attend. The public. Because someone like me will show up. All right.
What actual actions that Trump has taken do you like and think are beneficial?
So there are a bunch of them. So I've actually been...
Oh boy. What actions has Trump taken? What actions has the president taken that I actually think are beneficial? Well, okay, so here's what I know. So here's the bottom line. I know that Trump as a businessman was like, the media loved him. I know that Harvard made a business class out of him with The Apprentice. And I remember how he was on The Apprentice. Like, he was constant, consistent. And I remember all of the people in his company. Boy, if that ever, like, remember how we learned with reality shows? Every reality star will tell you, like, when they get onto a reality show, if you listen to them and they get that, like, Bravo, they ask stars and they're like, well, what about the show weren't you expecting? And, like, the really honest ones will say, I wasn't expecting it to reveal as much as it was going to reveal. Like, it doesn't hide anything. And they're right. Like, it doesn't hide anything. And he wasn't scared of that. Like, it really revealed everything. And I think no matter how hard the media came at him, just the country just knew from The Apprentice, like you can't go from worshiping and making a ton of money off of him. But basically we'd seen him inside and out from The Apprentice. Like you saw the fabric of him, and basically, you know, and the art of the deal and everything. And all of that is how business works. And obviously the art of the deal had stuff in it that wasn't, I mean, maybe not obvious to you, but like obvious to me, like, and the people I know, like that, it's not all like the way it went down or whatever, but he played the game the way the straight up as compared to Mafia. Does that make sense? Like he played the game straight up as compared to Mafia. And what we had was a Congress that was at 10% for years. 10% approval rating. And what we had also was something that forced us into a two-party system. And we had Bush. Did you see that? Did you see that article? Did I post it yet? Where Bush's advisor, one of Bush's like campaign advisors or something, actually advised Zuckerberg before he went in to testify. Do you remember how I said, like, if anything confirmed what I told you in 9/11, boom, that was it. Boom, that was it. And I know if you saw it, you were ready for it because you watched my 9/11. Man, I told you. Man, I told you. That tells you. That tells you. And I've heard other people say, and there's some people that I want to share with you, because I really want to get you guys used to, the media is so used to putting liars in front of you that now we're at a place where we don't trust people who are actually truth tellers. We think they're the liars, whereas the liars we think are truth tellers. And I really want to start getting that in front of you. Bombard's body language helps with that somewhat. And I really want to start, I want to use some of her videos, but also some other people just to start helping you like relearn that. They've done that on purpose. They want you to trust the criminals. Like they've even put a lot of cocaine addicts and heroin addicts in front of you so you don't recognize it when your own kids have it. Like so that you don't even see it. So that you can have a kid that's high on opioids and it doesn't touch their business because you think it's normal because you see it on TV so often. Does that make sense? Like it's just like I know it from my training in teaching high school, like before getting in and everything like that. Like I know it. I can watch TV and I'm like, what the? Like they're totally, and I'm just like they're all over. And I'm like, I know why they have them up there as normal, active human. They don't clean them up at all, but they do that for a reason. And they don't say a word. They don't say a word. And there's a reason for that. They want to normalize it for you and say, this is a normal, healthy, successful person. You know, so that you, when you see your kid or you see a loved one, you don't get alarmed. You think this is a normal, successful, healthy person. And then you don't touch the addiction. It's really sick. It's really, really sick. So anyway, what do I think that the president's done that's good? So basically, here are things that like you won't hear from the media that I think that what happened was they fought against him because they wouldn't have the two-party system. Like the presidents, like Bush was working for the same people that Hillary was working for, like same exact people, like both were kind of like this mafia at the same time. You know, Doug Weed found that out when he did his book. He found out that, you know, the same people who are backing Jeb Bush were the same exact people backing Hillary Clinton. And so, you know, and it's not like, you know, the president was a Republican. He was right in the middle. They were all like, why is he? And he said it. He's like, I'm running for the side that, you know, I think I can win with. You know, he would have run as independent if he thought he could win, but they don't allow independents to run. You know, blah, 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 blah. So, but what you're seeing is the results of having a non-politician in office. And they're not talking about that. And so I don't think you're even catching it. You're not catching, I have a feeling you're not catching all the things that are happening because a non-politician is in office. Number one, Facebook. Facebook, since its inception, was never dragged before Congress. No one's pointing that out, are they? We've been talking about Facebook for how freaking long? Do you remember the first time they violated our privacy? Do you remember when we all had privacy settings and they turned them off? They made them all public. That was their first sweep. That was their first. They went and we all were like, oh, we found out 3 days later and we had to go back and individually change every one of our albums to private. It was too late. They did it in secret. They did it privately. They made it all public. And the moment they did that, they swept all of our information and data collected it and made it their own. So when we say now when he testified and says, oh, a person cannot reassemble it, that doesn't mean it's gone. They still have it on you. You know, and it's very interesting that the Pentagon made up that little like LifeLog program, and the same day they disconnected it, Facebook started. That is not a coincidence. There are no coincidences. And so it's fascinating that the moment we get a non-politician into office, that's when we get Facebook dragged in front of Congress. Like, people don't mention that. And also, like, we've been complaining about how, like, nothing's been working for us. Like, all the laws go against us. Like, we're just like, we can tell. How long did we say that corporate America owned Congress? How long did we say that? And now suddenly corporate America, like, the laws are being undone. Like, things are suddenly changing. For example, let me give you a really good example. We're finding out about taxes. I'll try and link it, like right here. I'll link it. I won't link it here. Never mind. I'll link it after I say it. I'll link it. It is, what's his name? Yeah, the guy, I'll remember his name later. So he did a great thing where he talked about how, Obama did this great thing by flooding us and infusing us with a bunch of money, but he didn't give us tax cuts. Tax cuts infused us with a bunch of money, but the money continues. And so the economy continues to grow. Well, we've been listening to, so as long as I've been around, that tax cuts don't work. Tax cuts don't work. Trickle-down economics don't work. They never work. How long have you been hearing late-night talk shows drill that into our head? And now we are all finding out that that's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they do. So now the money is coming down to the American people again and not to the globalists. Like, it's not going to the 1%. Not only that, but he closed the 15%. Do you know who under the DNC? Do you know? And even the Republicans, they didn't close it either, but the DNC created it, and then they kept it when they promised that they'd close it. The people who were paying the least amount of taxes were the 1%. They were getting those huge golden bonuses, those massive, massive bonuses. And when you get paid by a bonus, you get this special tax rate of only 15%. No one in America pays 15% tax rate. And no one, Hillary, no one, Obama, when they had the Congress and everything like that, they never, ever closed that tax loop, even though they promised and said to high heavens, no, they're owned by Wall Street. When they did all of their big things, even when they did that little deal where they had that whole too big to fail, they knelt at Nancy Pelosi's feet, they still, for the American people, they did not close that tax loop. Who closed the tax loop? This president closed the tax loop on the rich. Finally, the 1% is actually paying, like the wealthy finally actually are paying their fair share for the first time ever. Like in 30 years or whatever, since the Clintons have been in office. That's a big freaking deal. So I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I also like even more that who got the biggest tax cut? Single working mothers. They got a 70% tax cut. So yeah, the feminist in me kind of likes that a lot. I like that a lot. So, I just like all the things that that just aren't getting mentioned that like politicians covered for, like all the things for the people that like all the corruption. Like we're finding out, like for example, we're finding out that FBI offices, you used to be able to call and get an agent and talk to an agent. Now we're finding out that it just goes to a call center and they don't call you back. And they actually work against the people. We're learning that the FBI, and it's only because this top layer, this top corrupt layer, not the rest of them, but this top corrupt layer of the FBI and the top corrupt layer that, well, actually the whole corrupt layer of the CIA, dear God. But like this whole intelligence community, we're learning that they're just working in line with the globalists and they're working in line with the whatchamacallit, with basically the cartels. Would we ever have found that out unless we had gone outside a party, whether it was RNC or DNC? No, we never would have found any of that out. So I like what we're like actually finding out, like for us, like on our end of the thing. Like I like that we're finding out. And I also like that we're finally like doing individual, like I really like the trade deals. Like I really like that we're no longer doing world trade deals. Like when I listened to that trade deal around the table, when I heard that round table, boy, I learned a lot. I learned how much, and then when I saw that Silk Road China, I'll link it up here, and basically they're the new America. All of our wealth was going into China. Dear God, listening to those trade deals and how much our Congress, both sides, crippled us and just took all of our wealth and stripped America of all of her beauty and her wealth, and China just rebuilt. It looks like freaking Teddy Roosevelt was president over there, and this communist country just got to boom. And of course, the poor just got totally shafted over there. And I'm like, the globalists just were like, here, go help China, make them huge, you know? So I just was like, you know, no. Like, no, like, make it an even. And of course, they don't want that. They don't want any of us to have our own wealth. I'll have to do another video on that later, and I'll tell you why. Wow, that's the longest answer known to man. All right, moving on to the next one.
And my question is, I don't want to say you're wrong in doing this, but why do you feel it's necessary to react so sharply to leftists and the views that they hold, and react so sharply to the views, to beliefs that they hold about opinions that are...
Well, I mean, I think that it depends on...
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Do you know what the leftists do? They don't just bully. They take a bat and they whack, and then they take a shaft and they stab in the back, and then they slit your throat while you're sleeping. What am I supposed to do? Just sit there and be like, you're nice. No, our job is to speak for the people. And the people are getting bloodied out there. Literally bloodied. No matter what color, no matter what race. Transgender people, they go out there. Transgender people go out and protest for free speech. And Antifa has mowed them down with signs and stabbed them in the head. There's photos. Just nailed them down. And how dare you guys ask us repeatedly, why aren't you nicer? Because it's war. We're in the middle of a war. If they come at you swinging with a sword, you lift up a sword. You don't lift up a flower.
Thank you for coming, especially after the reputation we developed last year. So my name is Ian. I don't necessarily agree with you and everything, but that's where I came here. I'd rather be here than my own echo chamber.
Well, thank you. I mean,
Nice. I love people like that. Very smart. Very smart. Good guy.
So you said that you consider transgender as a mental disorder, which is something that I don't know enough about to
I don't.
properly debate you on and criticize. So more broadly, that then...
I don't at all.
Do you think that the United States should do more to develop proper infrastructure to take care of people generally who suffer from various mental illnesses, or are we doing a fine job?
no, so the answer is yes. I think that the
Yeah,
typical...
I actually agree with his answer on that. I don't really want to expand on that. I think he's totally right with his answer on that. I was horrified with what JFK did and what they're doing. And I think Ann Coulter wrote a really good article. Again, nothing to do with conservatism. It's just facts. Like, just facts about what happened with the system, and I'll try and link that down below. She wrote just a factual article. Again, like, basically everyone who's being labeled conservative is basically the news media. They're acting as the news media now, like that, and they're not really conservative. They're just the news media. They're having to play commentator. They're having to play news organization. They're having to play outlet. They're having to play all the different hats that the news media is supposed to be playing. So it's really, you know, they call them conservative because they don't want you to listen to them, but they are just by default having to wear all these hats. You know what I mean? So, but I don't consider it a mental disease. Like, but then again, back in the day, like if you're transgender, I mean, if a guy, there weren't that many. I mean, it is a small percent of the population. They're really forcing it on kids, and it's something usually you decide much older, and it's fine. If you're a guy and you decide to wear a woman's clothing, you decide to wear a woman's clothing, and you just be like, hey, and hey, and actually they're always cool to hang out with, and it was just like any other person. There was no different, and you hung out with them, and I never noticed anything differently about them. I mean, the people I knew were literally no different. Like, literally no different. Like, just no different. Like, that's just the way they like to dress. You know what I mean? Like, There are even dancers that did that. That's just the way they like to dress. And I was just like, I saw it as a fashion choice. I mean, that's just the way they acted. They never demanded I speak to them a certain way. Ever. Like, ever. I think there was like maybe one that I heard that asked it, and it was just like, oh, well, like, whatever. But they understood, like, if you didn't, like, you just hadn't heard, it was like their friends. Like, they asked their friends to do that. You know what I mean? So, but then I've been locked up since they've been pushing it really hard. So I've been locked up in the house. So what do I know? You know what I mean? So I guess I'm not educated enough on that. But again, from what I've heard, it's really something that they're forcing, that the DNC is really picking, and Soros and the globalists are really picking to make a fight. But like a lot of the other side is like saying, like, the letters we're getting saying we didn't ask for this. Like, we didn't ask for this. Like, if you watch that Jordan Peterson thing, the guy's reading notes the whole time. You'll notice that with the left, when the speakers get on there, they're reading their Media Matters notes the whole time. They're looking down the whole time and just reading off literally from their Media Matters script. Like, the guy just kept looking at his notes. They don't have a personal opinion. Like, they're paid, they're hired, they have a script that they've been given. It's not their life's work or their passion. Do you see what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Typical root form of suffering the same summit is told is the place that generally where a lot is mentally in states. States choose there was a tick for drugs and living need to do with
2012. My name is Carmi, huge fan. I'm originally from LA too. Moved in 2012.
Why would you move to this weather, dude?
Stop saying that. Stop saying that to people who are brave enough to move. Stop saying that. People who are brave enough to leave California, stop saying to them, why would you want to move to this weather? First of all, being in seasons is heavenly. Being in seasons is heavenly. There, all of a sudden, all the songs make sense. All the songs suddenly make sense. All the music in the world suddenly makes sense to you. In California, none of the songs make sense. Like, all the Christmas music suddenly makes sense. You're like, oh, that's what that means. And that's what that means. Chestnuts and this and this. All these suddenly on all the different kinds of snow. You don't understand any of that stuff until you live in seasons. It's like this glorious new world. Not only that, but I mean, it just, being in weather, like, the people are better because they know there's something bigger than them. Living in weather, like, when I didn't say that my leaving California thing, but when you live in a place where there is no weather, like, you realize you think you're God. You do. You think you're God. There's never any force coming against you saying, guess what? Things aren't going to go to your way today. Like, there is nothing making your life tough ever. Ever. There's nothing ever pushing against you, creating resistance to make you tougher to go the other way. Does that make sense? And so you just think that, it's very easy for you to think that you're the center of the universe when you're not. Out on the East Coast, like, there's seasons and there's weather. And when somebody makes that choice, it's a very brave choice, and all of society goes against you. And if someone's your fan, don't yell at them. Like, don't be a jerk.
Well, my dad's a rabbi, so he moved.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So do you think the GOP rigs election with gerrymandering?
He felt like he had to give an excuse. Like, isn't that sad? Like, he shamed the kid in front of everyone. He shamed the kid. Like, young men need so much encouragement. Like, young man, if you are watching this, like, I can tell you like it. I can tell that you like it. And you're right to like it. You're right to like it. It's a lot different, isn't it? It's a lot more diverse in thought. I'm with you, man. Like, I am with you. I am so with you. It's great. And I hope you stay out here. I hope you go wherever it is you want to go. I hope you find your place. I hope you find your state. I hope you find wherever it is you want to go, and the people in your life encourage you, no matter what it is that you decide to do.
And voter ID laws, and specifically with Roy Moore, the Roy Moore election, 97% of black people voted for Doug Jones. People say that they saved the election.
Well, I mean, so as far as voter ID, I do not think that voter ID is discriminatory. If I have to show an ID to buy an alcohol, it seems to me that I should have to show ID in order to vote. This does not.
Yeah, voter ID, that is a DNC line that it's discriminatory. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Have you seen what's going on? Like, they're not just hacking the machines. Fine. If you don't know what's going on, like, just read my Twitter feed. The amount of voter fraud that's going on is at it, like, we don't have our vote. It's beyond amazing. It's not voter suppression at all. It is voter fraud suppression on every single level. There's a reason why right after the election, even though the president won, he still did an actual voter fraud. Like, did you see that? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to see the expose where they catch on tape Hillary Clinton's campaign plotting and carrying out election fraud all over the country. They actually got it on tape. That's why Comey came out. When Comey did that surprising thing and actually broke the law, it turns out he broke the law. He broke 50 years of law to actually make that announcement. Wasn't supposed to do it. Broke the law to actually do it, to make that announcement. Why did he do it? That expose. Poison pill to cover up this poison. Do the lesser story to cover up the bigger story. And no one ever found out about it. Ooh, gotta be smart, people. But we are. We are so damn smart. We're so damn smart. Okay, I'm really wearing out here, so, that's why. I am like at an hour. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and do a part 1 and part 2. I'm going to go ahead and take a break and get on out of here. But yeah, voter suppression, give me a break. That is called protecting our right to vote so that every individual's vote actually counts. It is totally, even if we charge $5, fine. But like, I don't care. It needs to be done. They're selling Social Security cards on the corner of the streets in LA. You can buy them on the corner of the streets in LA. LA just lets you go up and point at a name and they let you vote. I mean, they're busting people in. They're hacking the machines. Do you remember the electronic machines came in during the Clinton era? For the second, yep, that tells you. Second election, yep. Yep, when he wasn't good. Yeah, you go check it out. So anyway, research is so good. Oh, yeah. When I was really little, that was what I was first taken to, was Clinton. So it's like, it's not, that's not, we just follow the facts. Like, we just have to follow the facts at this point. It's not about left or right. My God, like, we are not at that point at all. We are not there. Oh God, I have so much research to give you and you'll love it. So we will be back for part 2, but for right now, here's part 1 and I hope you enjoyed. Peace out. Bye. Did you enjoy my earrings? Lila, do you think they enjoy my earrings? She's been here the whole time. Bye guys. And no next line. Yeah. Western woman. 50s Western woman. Bye guys.